Well, the Lord is risen. He has risen indeed. By the way, I'm in Chula Vista. We came on Good Friday because we're staying at my sister-in-law's, Linda's house, Gail's sister, and we've had a great couple days. And today, Linda and Gail and I are going to go to worship. It's about 4:30 in the morning now. No, we're not going to go at 4:30 in the morning, but we're going to go. And then later we'll go over to my niece and her husband, Shane, and Rachel and Shane, and they have two kids, Nora and Jake. We've been spending some time with them. We'll go over there and have a Easter meal over there with them. It's been a great visit. So I'm in Linda's sewing room, by the way, doing this. We've been all week during Holy Week. I've been sharing short messages on events in the life of Jesus leading up to the cross. But I had to do one, and it's all on my YouTube. Of course, I had to do one today because today's Easter. This is where we greet one another, and somebody may say, "The Lord is risen. Is risen indeed." If I were pastoring, I'd say it three times. The Lord is risen. He is risen indeed. And I would say, the Lord is risen. And the people would shout, He is risen indeed. I had to be careful because people are still sleeping here. But man alive, that's exciting. Loved Easter. I love going to church and worshiping on Easter. I always go, what am I going to preach on? Duh, if I was preaching. But I often thought it was kind of interesting. The churches are usually pretty packed on Easter, aren't they? Oh, and and it was great. There was excitement, the music, singing. Uh, she's focusing on the Lord's risen, and but I'd see people come and they get caught up in the excitement, the music, and uh, some people. And I often wonder, do they really know what this event's like? Have they been through Holy Week? Have they been to the cross? Do they really understand what it means for Jesus to die for you? Because if you can't grasp what it means for him to die for you, how do you know? How can you celebrate that he rose for you? Well, if you haven't, read all the Gospels, but I kind of like um, reading John right now. John, wrote the book of John, especially read John chapter 1 through 20. Oh, read all of it. Um, by the way, Easter, yeah, read all of it. But this is where Mary comes to the tomb early in the morning. It's probably still dark. Oh, it's dark out here right now. Some people, you may be going to sunrise services, but comes early in the morning, and she's got to come and to prepare his body. She couldn't do it when Jesus died on the cross. Passover had to wait until Saturday, Friday night, Saturday, and so early that Sunday morning she's coming. She sees the tomb rolled away, the big stone rolled away. And she peeks in, she sees the linen lying there, and she runs back to where Peter and the disciple. Oh, actually, it says Peter and the other disciple. Peter and the other disciple. Now, John refers himself in the book. You always see John refer. He writes it because the other disciple, and a lot of times he says the other disciple who Jesus loved. And so we always call him John the Beloved. Well, I got to tell you something. John calls himself that. Uh, I don't see where Jesus is, oh, John, I love you more than. No, Jesus loved all his. Jesus loves us. But John calls himself that. And that's okay. John will let you call yourself that. The one Jesus loved. And they don't believe her, by the way. And John records that Peter goes running and they're running to the tomb. But John says the other disciple, the one that Jesus loved, uh, got there first. John wants you to know we had a foot race, but Peter got ahead of me, but I beat him. I beat Peter. And John says he peeks in, but he does not go in. Peter catches up to him. Peter doesn't just peek, he barrels right into the tomb. That's what Peters do. When and I'm a Peter. Anytime you read about Peter, man, he doesn't even think, he just goes right in. Now, sometimes Peter's right on in his actions. Yes. Like the time when they were fishing and Jesus wasn't there, and a storm came on Galilee. Oh, big storm. And Jesus is walking on the water towards them. And John says, the other disciple says, uh, Peter, uh, that's Jesus. And Jesus, he says, Peter says, that's you, Lord. Call me and I'll come to you. And Peter gets out of the boat. He's looking at Jesus. He gets out of the boat. He's walking on the water. Yeah, we know he took his eyes off Jesus and he sank. But Peter got out of the boat. See, when he's right on, he's right on. How about the time towards the end of Jesus' ministry when Jesus says, what are people saying about me? What's the word getting out? And some of the disciples said, well, some say you're a good rabbi, which he was. Some say you're a prophet, which he was. There was even a rumor going around that Jesus was John the Baptist come back to life, which is ludicrous. And then Jesus looked at them. It's almost like it doesn't matter what anybody else says. It really doesn't. The, the big question is when Jesus is going to look at us, and he looks at, but who do you say I am? And there's stirring within Peter. And Peter says, you are the Christ. You are the Son of the living God. And Jesus says, well, Peter, you're right. And on that foundation, I'm going to build my church. Peter, the rock, keys to the kingdom. See, sometimes he's right on. He's really right on, Peter. Man. And then Jesus talks about how he's going to go to Jerusalem. He's going to die. And it's almost like Peter takes his eyes off Jesus. And he says, no, we're not going to let that happen to you. And then Jesus says, get behind thee, Satan. Ah, when Peter's right on, he's right on. But when he's right off, he's right off. Hmm. Well, they still don't believe. I mean, they go, yeah, Mary's right. I guess, well, yeah, there was stones rolled away. There's nobody. And they go back to where they were at, the house. And read on, and Mary's crying. And angels appear. And she's crying. Jesus appears, but she doesn't recognize Jesus. Now, I think there's a reason for that, and I may get into that later on. But how does she recognize him? Jesus just says one word. He says, Mary. He calls her name, Mary. And she recognizes Jesus. Well, I want to stop there. Read the rest of John. You could read the rest, and I might share a little bit more, but another time. But read the rest. But today, as you worship, and I hope you do worship, I hope you worship with others today. Get to the tomb, but don't just peek in. Fully go in, fully commit yourself, and see that there's nobody there. Say to one another, the Lord has risen. And have the other people go, he's risen indeed. And hear Jesus call your name. Frank, Harry, George, John. And when he calls your name, you will know the Lord is risen. He is risen indeed. And you'll know that will be true with us someday. Can't wait for that day. Well, happy Easter. By the way, Easter is a season, early Christians, it was a 50-day season. Um, started from his resurrection and it went right to Pentecost, which goes on with a Jewish celebration. I'm not going to do one every day. Not going to do one every day during, like I've been doing. Some of you are going, oh man, again. Well, but I am. Uh, on Friday or Saturday on my Journey of the Way Walker, which I'm going to share about some resurrection events of Jesus. They're exciting. And if you want to read about them, read about in John chapter 20, John 21, and then shoot over to Luke 24. Some great events. And then you might want to get into Acts uh, chapter 1 and 2. So at least on one for those 50 days, but at least once a week, like maybe Friday or Saturday, I'm going to share one of those events for you to be in the event. But for now, happy Easter, and the Lord has risen.